I know I play a lot of Resident Evil on this channel, but the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim shares one thing with it. It's been ported just about as many times as Resident Evil 4. I remember being in middle school at one of my best friend's birthday parties conveniently in November of 2011 when Skyrim came out. I watched one of my friends fight the first dragon encounter at the Watchtower outside of Whiterun, and I was hooked. I had to have it myself, and so when I got it for myself, I poured the hours into it for months and months, trying to do and see every little cool detail. And of course, coming back for all the DLC. It's been at least 10 years since I've done another Skyrim playthrough, and it's been itching at me lately, so I decided to do one again. But this time, I'll be spicing things up since I'm a PC gamer now and I have access to the wonderful world of mods. So, for that reason, I scored Nexus Mods to find some spooky mods to make this playthrough fit the theme of the channel more, which is horror videos, but it's just kind of turned into RE challenge videos. The main goals I'm setting for myself for this run is to complete the main game, complete the Thieves Guild, complete the Dark Brotherhood, smith a full set of Daedric equipment, and most importantly, uncover the secrets of the Legend of Slender Man in the land known as Skyrim. If you enjoy, please like and subscribe, and even comment your favorite Skyrim memory. Anyways, here's the video. We wake up in the iconic opening scene we all know and love as we ride to our imminent death that we don't even know what for. I think we're in the VIP carriage, by the way, because this guy in front of me keeps getting snippy about the guy next to me that has his mouth covered. The real criminal is this kid that refuses to listen to his parents.
Why? I want to watch the soldiers.
Inside the house. Now.
Whoa. Yes, Papa.
We arrive at our destination, and everyone begins dismounting the carriage, and one by one they call off roll call. Until...
Who are you?
Wait, what do you mean I'm not on the list? We assume the character creation screen, and I decided to go with Khajiit this time. You should know that I am foregoing literally any race benefits, I just want to be a cat. I usually don't spend much time on customization, but I did make sure we had a cool looking scar and some chin beard to even it out. Now it's time to name our character. Perfect. Honestly, I think we chose a great name, but only to be told we're getting executed anyways just for being here. We're not first in line though, but don't worry, I'll protect us all, including my monetization from this one. This will be the first time we experience cat racism in Skyrim. You have to stay next to the cat? Whoa!
There it is again.
That was rude. I have a name. I just gave it to you. Please feel free to keep count. Next, we're up to bat, and as we're looking up at our fate, a dragon comes flying in and destroys the place we know as Helgen. This is our chance to get away, and after several more close encounters, we come across a split path where we have to decide to go with the Imperials or the Stormcloaks. I choose to go Stormcloaks every time, because you get better starting equipment on this side. Now that we're geared up a bit more, we're going to fight our way through some Imperial soldiers, picking up some potions along the way of course, as well as our first bow. I'm going for something like Sneaky Archer one-handed here. At the end of the cave, we'll encounter our first mod, which makes some of the hostile animal mobs a bit scarier. In all honesty, it kind of just turns them red, but honestly still cool the same. After we exit, we're told we need to head to the nearby town Riverwood as the dragon flies overhead. Now, we're free to do as we please, and the first thing I grab is the Thief Stone to immediately give us a boost in stealth. As we come upon Riverwood, we get to see some of the complete overhauls the mod has done. The towns are now completely spooky themed, filled with jack-o'-lanterns, graves, and even lost roaming spirits. We make our way to Gerdur and tell her about the dragon. She literally gives us everything she owns and tells us to go to Whiterun to talk to the Jarl. However, we've done this a time or two, so we're going to head straight up to Bleak Falls Barrow and run into the new Pirate Skeleton bandit enemies. These guys gave it to me good, because I was obviously still getting warmed up. I chose to look around Riverwood a bit more after that before heading up again. Kitty! Hi, kitty. You're a little chonker. You got a little pouch on you, don't you? I would die for you. Ah! Oh, that's healthy. That's probably like... What are you doing? What's going on? What is going on in this town? There's a spider here. I can talk to you? Okay. It's okay, Stump. You don't gotta say anything, man. Hey, coffins. Got some coffins going on here. Oh, he made it. Where's your costume? Thank you. I can only talk to you. Once finished piddling around, we ran into the pirates again, but we're able to take them down this time. Skeleton pirate armor? What? No wonder they're so strong. I'm a pirate! Bleak Falls Barrow is our first main dungeon of the game, and it's relatively easy. We have to solve a puzzle to get in so that we don't get pierced by 1,000 arrows, and eventually come across the overhauled Draugr, which just look a bit more menacing if you ask me. We find a spider den with a giant spider for us to take down, and another NPC we honestly should have let become its dinner.
You fool. Why should I share? Never should have come here. Oh!
With the golden claw in hand, we can observe it to find the solution to the puzzle door, and enter to absorb our first word of our first shout. A Draugr overlord springs up, but he's honestly chump change against a pirate, so he goes down and we gain the Dragonstone before we even know we're supposed to have it, and begin making the trip to Whiterun. Once at Whiterun, we take a look at the festivities, of course, and most importantly, meet a new vendor named Jack Skellington. Jack sells all kinds of cool new armor, even the hero's tunic. For this trip to Jack, I opted to get the Heisenberg set for later and then head in to contact the Jarl. He wants us to work with his alchemist who is a little full of himself but wants the Dragonstone we already have. While this is going down, a dragon starts attacking one of the nearby watchtowers and we're asked to help investigate. And on the way, we witness a kid getting bullied so hard.
You better give me 5 septims right now or I'm gonna bloody your nose. 10 septims tomorrow, baby Battleborn, or I'm gonna bloody your nose and your lip.
No, please. I really don't have any money, Brave. I'll give you 10 septims tomorrow. Just don't hit
God, I
me.
hate children. Like, so hard. We arrive at the watchtower and the dragon shows its face again. And with all our efforts combined, we manage to take it down and we absorb its soul with the modded ominous soul absorb music playing. Okay, yeah, that was definitely pretty ominous sounding. Everyone's astonished that we're the Dragonborn, but we don't even know what that is. On the way back to the Jarl, a bunch of old people apparently yell for us, and since we killed the dragon, we're named Thane of Whiterun, and get allotted our first companion in Lydia. She can come with us. Our goal now is to travel to High Hrothgar in order to answer the Greybeard's calls. I called this a good time to change out our headgear though. Ultimately, I decided to just walk to Ivarstead, which is the town at the foot of the 7,000 step pilgrimage we will be taking. There's just something so solemn about walking through the land of Skyrim sometimes, and just obliterating random rats and wolves. We were rewarded for our decision to walk by a beautiful Soul Eater sunset. Once we finally reach Ivarstead, we waste no time to begin our trek up the mountain. Oh, they're both in the same frame! Look at that, the sun and the moon are out tonight. That is so cool. What a cool thing to actually catch. The Greybeards give us a warm welcome and want to give us more of a crash course on our Dragonborn-ness. Basically, we can say words like really hard. Master Einarth in particular is interested in us. After Master Einarth teaches us the second word to Unrelenting Force and gives us some of his life energy for us to use it, we can practice on some spectrals the Greybeards summon, and once they are satisfied, we head outside to learn my favorite shout, Whirlwind Sprint. We have to prove our ability to use it, but once done, we're tasked with finding the Horn of Jurgen Windcaller in another dungeon crawling quest. And it's a bit of a stretch away, so we hop on a carriage in Whiterun stables and travel to Morthal to get there a bit quicker. Something definitely interesting is going down here in Morthal, but we have a horn to find. That is until we happen across the Bloody Tankard. This is a new shop, it seems, with a spectral Khajiit as its shopkeep. They have a lot of things lying around, and I really battle with whether I'm a good person or not for taking them, because the shopkeep was tending to the fire. After speaking with them, we learn they have pretty similar items to Jack and Whiterun that are all new and very spooky themed. They also have Link's Goron tunic here, which I just really want these tunics, man, but all this stuff is expensive. So I went with a classic pot helmet for our next costume change to feel reminiscent of Elden Ring and head on our merry way. We defeat some bandits camping outside Ustengrav and then head in. There's nothing particular of note in here other than maybe finding the first word to a shout I won't use. Once we find the Horn's chamber, all we find is a note telling us to head to the inn at Riverwood and to ask for the attic room. Which is crazy, because they didn't even have an attic room, and Belle Delphine barged in the room they gave me and asked me to come into her basement to then ask me to slay her dead revived dragon. So obviously I did. After proving my Dragon Slayer abilities, we've completely earned her trust as the Dragonborn, and she invites us back into her basement, starting the famed diplomatic immunity quests. We have a horn to return to the Greybeards though, just for the sake of no loose ends, before heading back to Riverwood to prepare for the quest. For For those that don't know, the quest Diplomatic Immunity will have us infiltrating a Thalmor party full of Skyrim's richest and most powerful. Belle Delphine first wants us to head to Solitude in order to link up with a mutual friend, Malborn. Malborn is our inside guy, and we need to give him anything we want to take on this mission so he can smuggle it in for us. Delphine asks us to meet her at the Solitude stables after our meeting, so that way she can make us the prettiest princess at the party. She seems to think dressing as a skeleton pirate isn't going to be a good look, so she makes us put on real people clothes. Oh yeah, I'm wearing a pot on my head now. She takes us even though we're wearing the pot, and we transport to the Thalmor embassy party, but the pot doesn't seem to make it through, so we'll just be a regular old Khajiit. Malborn needs us to create a distraction in order for us to sneak into the back and retrieve our gear. So after making some small talk, we end up with a fancy drink we can give to our friend Rosalind, and to return our kind gesture, he gets up and makes a scene for us, allowing us to slip through the kitchen and grab our things. From here, we're the enemy of the Thalmor, and they come in waves until we can find a chest holding the quest goal. Some notes explaining the Thalmor's current knowledge of the dragons and what they're after. Turns out they don't know any more about the dragons than we do. However, they are searching for someone named Esbern. We rescue a prisoner who vows to take us to the exit, but as we leave, the Thalmor come in with Malborn. I fought hard to save him, but they ended him right in front of our eyes. After receiving sweet vengeance, it turns out these guards held the key to the trapdoor we need to use to exit. The prisoner we just saved doesn't care much for his life because there's a frost troll down here that not even I wanted to fight without Lydia by my side. This makes us 0 for 2 on saving people this trip. Such is the price of being the Dragonborn. We take the information we found to Delphine, and she tells us Esbern may be in Riften, so that's where we will be heading next to search for a man named Brynjolf. Also, turns out whenever I collect all from a chest, the universe laughs at me for some reason. Oh. Upon arriving at Riften, I immediately became best friends with Hofgrir Horsecrusher by beating the shit out of him, and then went to the town square where Brynjolf was patiently waiting. We have to prove ourselves to him, first and foremost. So he wants us to steal some jewelry from a store owner and then plant it on another, less desirable one, all while he provides a distraction for us. The operation goes off without a hitch, and next thing we know, we're invited down into the sewers where Esbern is assumedly hiding. I thought this is the best place to start our Thieves Guild adventure, if any, so we're going to be putting Esbern on the back burner and instead trying to earn the trust of Brynjolf. Some locals seem to be avoiding paying some serious debts to the establishment, so he asked us to procure the funds. So we use one's lover to find out how to threaten their family for one, and then absolutely destroy a priceless jar to coerce the next. By this time, word had gotten to the third one, and they pay up immediately. We can take this money and success back to Brynjolf, and he'll be so impressed, he'll introduce us to the guildmaster, Mercer Frey, who's a bit of a chode, but nonetheless gives us an official standing as a member. He has a job for us to take care of, but first we'll chat with other Thieves Guild members, Delvin and Vex, to more or less introduce ourselves. We make our way to the surface to start our next job. Golden Glow Estates has apparently shut out the guild, and the guild doesn't like that. They breed bees here, and we're tasked with destroying 3 of the hives with some fire, and once that's done, we'll have to infiltrate the giant place in order to clear out the owner's safe. This gives us a letter I didn't look at, but Brynjolf notices a strange symbol neither of us recognize. A very important person to the guild named Maven wants to see to it that she gets our services next. She's a little rude, but we accept her job nonetheless, which will be taking us back to Whiterun once again. The textures didn't load well here for some reason, and of course I stopped by our friend Jack. I tried to upgrade our headwear, but the few I bought didn't seem to be loading in properly, so I just opted to keep the pot on. We find Malu Macius, who is Maven's apprentice in all of this, and he gives us the lowdown. Another meadery in Whiterun has got a skeever problem, and we want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. On the way out though, we find some more creepy Zelda references. And outside, I found a talking pumpkin that read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe to me, or at least 1 paragraph, and started a quest line for us to find the remaining talking pumpkins. So I'm just going to tack that on as another of our goals, if you all don't mind. We head to the meadery in order to get the owner to hire us to clean out his rat problem. He gives us a poison from his own collection, and we travel through the literal dungeon under his meadery and fight an icicle-throwing psycho in order to poison the skeever's nest. But we don't use all of the poison there, and on our way, pour out just a bit into his brewing system so that when the commander of the Whiterun Guard has a sip, he takes away the owner for good, leaving Malice in charge for the foreseeable future. We need to rummage through the previous owner's things, however, in order to find the secrets of the meadery for Maven, and then take the note back to her. Once again, I didn't read it, but I guess it has the same symbol as the last note we found on it. So we head to see Brynjolf. He sends us to the guild master Mercer for our next quest. Mercer tells us to find the Argonian Golem Eye in Solitude in order to find more information on the person trying to drive a wedge between the guild and Maven. We're told before even leaving that it'll have to be bought, so we went straight for the bribe. My friend doesn't want money though, so we'll have to head into the palace to steal a special case of wine for him before he's going to talk. He tells us some menial things about the Golden Glow Estate scam, but our intuition tells us he's lying and that he knows more. So, after he storms off, we begin to track him for like a really long time. And we never get caught, somehow. Finally, we end up cornering him, and he tells us the name of the person behind all this, Carlia, a previous member of the guild who apparently murdered the previous guildmaster before Mercer. Golem Eye gets to live to tell another tale, and we head back to Mercer to tell our tale. Mercer knows exactly where she'll be hiding at and wants us to meet him there at the entrance so we can go in and kill her together. But first, we find Tanilia, who I was supposed to find like 3 quests ago to get our Thieves Guild armor, and then immediately trade in the boots for a better set as a reward for our hard work. I actually decide to swap to the armor for immersion's sake since we are a huge part of the guild after all. On our way to Mercer, we encounter our first dragon since Whiterun, and I gotta say, the mod that gives them this red tint just looks really cool. We're able to solo this one with pretty little effort and get to hear that sweet, sweet, ominous dragon soul absorb music again. And then my pockets got full. So I bought a house in Whiterun and then came back to meet up with the Guildmaster Mercer. He shows his skill at the door to the Snowvale Sanctum by unlocking a door we couldn't even attempt to. In case anyone was wondering, by the way, unless it's unlocking doors, Mercer is a total meme. We find another word to another shout I'm never going to use, and then find another door only Mercer could open. Upon entering, Carlia shoots us with what we will learn to be a poison-tipped arrow meant for Mercer that has a paralytic attribute. We lay there, watching Carlia and Mercer talk about something called the Nightingales, and then Mercer stabs us in the stomach after Carlia runs away. We wake up just outside to Carlia, who apparently helped us live and has a journal that she can't read and has been looking at for like a year. But once we ask about deciphering it, she, a well-known and talented thief, remembers that's a possibility and asks us to head to Winterhold to find Enthyr. Winterhold is not all that far, so I decided to walk it in and ran into this cool black saber-tooth. We make it to the inn and Winterhold, and this guy challenges me to a drinking competition for a staff, but we don't have time for this particular person's shenanigans right now. We find Enthyr and show him the codex we've got. He's happy to see we have it, but he can't decipher it himself. Turns out it's written in the Falmer language, and conveniently enough, a man named Calkelmo in Markarth has been working on translating the Falmer language for his whole life. Also, just add this to the Skyrim cat racism counter.
My pa says people like you are the reason no one lives here anymore.
What? What? Are you? Is it because I'm a cat? I don't even look like a cat right now. Is it because I have a tail? Unbelievable. Did you hear what that guy just said to us? Can you believe that? You agree? What do you mean? Oh, and as soon as we walked out, we had to fight a dragon. We traveled to Calkelmo, and he's a bit snippy at first, but that's just because he's stressed. He ultimately refuses to let us see his work, so we end up stealing the key to his museum from under his nose, and then fight some of his guards, until we have an interesting moment with Lydia inside the museum. Those are very... I'm a cat, Lydia! You're supposed to be on my side! Nevertheless, we find the tablet Calkelmo put his work on. We grab a roll of paper and some charcoal to etch it on, all sneaky-like, just like when Brooke stole the road poneglyph from Big Mom. A group of enemies enter, seemingly looking for us, but using whirlwind sprints, we're able to escape with no issues. At the bottom, we act totally naturally when a guard approaches us for shouting.
That shouting is making people nervous.
Right, yeah, shouting. That's all I've done. I haven't done anything else illegal, and I'll definitely stop shouting. So, thank you for asking so nicely. And make our happy way out. We take the etching back to Enthyr and Carlia, where Enthyr then reads it, revealing the truth about Mercer Frey. Turns out he's been betraying and stealing from the guild for years and was actually the one to murder Gallus. We head to the Ragged Flagon with Carlia to present this information to Brynjolf, who then, he and Delvin, with their own separate keys, open the vault to find it completely emptied. Brynjolf tasked us to head to Mercer's house in Riften to try to find out where he went. He hired a bodyguard for the place, but he went down pretty easy, and we shoot the gears below his balcony in order to take the ramp up. We find a mysterious cabinet with a false wall inside it, leading down into Mercer's own personal rat tunnel. Here, we pick a lock to get the beautiful chill-rend enchanted glass sword and find Mercer's plans. We take the news back to Brynjolf, and turns out he's going after the coveted Falmer Eyes treasure, and according to Brynjolf, this will set Mercer for life. From here, Carlia asks both Brynjolf and us to head to a standing stone. This standing stone area turns out to be the Nightingale Hall, and turns out the Nightingale is an order serving Nocturnal in order to protect the Twilight Sepulchre. We touch the armor stone and receive our pretty set of Nightingale armor. Finally, we head in to take the oath to defend the Sepulchre as a trio. Carlia talks to the entity of Nocturnal for quite some time before, ultimately, we are accepted as Nightingales ourselves and tasked to find and defeat Mercer. Oh yeah, I have a mud crab hat now. Mercer stole the skeleton key, which is basically a lockpick that never breaks, and is the source of his power aside from general talent. Before we leave, our new comrades mention that they've decided to name us the next guildmaster after all this is said and done, and the Thieves Guild has returned to its former glory. But for this video, we're only going to be finishing the Nightingales part. We traveled to Earthend and meet up with our new friends, and I tried to play nice and kill everybody, but I ended up dying and going all the way back to the start because I wasn't quick saving. So I just ran through to Mercer. When we find him, he has procured the eyes and is ready to clash blades with us. He obviously has a long bad guy monologue, and the fight begins. It's just us versus him, and he has the ability to disappear, even though you can still see the outline of him most of the time. So we can finish him off pretty easily. We loot his body to gain the eyes and the skeleton key, and then water begins to fill the room. We have to wait for the water to rise a bit for the boulders behind the statue head to fall, and then we can get out of the danger and speak to Carlia. Turns out the adventure isn't quite over yet, as we need to head to the Pilgrim's Path to return the skeleton key to the Twilight Sepulchre. Of course, when we get to Fall Creek, the guard asks us about a particular dog and starts a new quest for us. But, like the drinking competition in Winterhold, we don't have time for this particular type of quest. In the first room, we run into the ghost of Gallus, who is very happy to hear we regain the key. Sort of related, Gallus acts like he's just so old here. I mean, when we mention that Carlia is alive, he seems to think that he's been gone for thousands of years or something, even though if Mercer is the one who unalives him, it really couldn't have been that long. I guess being a spectral little spirit feels like a long time. We need to make our way through the path fighting hostile Nightingale spirits until we can fall into what seems to be a well and a dead end. Eventually, the skeleton key reacts, removing the floor below us and revealing Nocturne's sanctuary. We return the skeleton key to its rightful place, and Nocturne appears before us, seemingly pretty unimpressed and indifferent with us, but hey, Gallus and Carlia get to reunite as it turns out they were lovers, and we get to leave, effectively finishing the Nightingale questline. Next, I decided to take some time to search out the remainder of the poetry reading pumpkins. And boy am I glad I did, because it's an experience. Turns out there's a few more pumpkins to reach out to in Whiterun. The next one actually being the huge shrine of Talos in the square that is now a pumpkin night. It reads another paragraph of the Raven to us and then sends us off to the next pumpkin, which is located in this graveyard I don't think I've ever seen ever in all my hours of playing this game. This quest is going to have us travel around all of Skyrim's main holds to find the remainder of these pumpkins. So I'm just going to say this snowman style one is definitely my favorite one. This is a great time to tell you that if you want to see this full playthrough with all this full footage and full gameplay, it'll be uploaded on my second channel, Jeeps_2, and I stream these types of games on Twitch, usually on the weekends outside of my Resident Evil schedule. Also, my cat Riley decided to join the party for a bit. While wandering around for these pumpkins, we found some more Halloween merchants, the first being in Solitude under the name Pennywise. Pennywise sells some familiar household items and green overalls, as well as a blue tunic I think I've seen somewhere before, but aside from that, it's just some more knickknacks. I tried to purchase the green cap he sells, but that mod doesn't seem to work, unfortunately, so I guess we're staying in Mudcrab. The final three pumpkins are located conveniently in Riften, where we have some rapport at now these days. The last one being right next to an orphanage we will be saying hi to in the very near future. This sends us to find the final pumpkin head in a cave that I so humbly whirlwind sprinted off a cliff into the water in order to get to faster. This place is called Darkshade, and inside houses quite a few of these really cool ghostly looking trolls. They aren't so bad to fight though, as I can take them on myself. Oh, by the way, a while back in Whiterun, I was messing around to see if you could still get out of bounds there. The answer is yes, you definitely can. But the point here is Lydia kept getting in the way, so I asked her to wait out of the way, and totally left without her, and didn't even realize it. She got tired of waiting and left for the breeze home in Whiterun. We find the last pumpkin, and it reads the final line of The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe to us, and in its full beauty. As it finishes, the raven itself appears in the cave. This thing actually looks really creepy and kind of spooked me when it popped up. It's skinned over a hard raven, it seems, as it only drops its feathers, but it can do some devastating fire attacks. All I did was shield bash and hit the raven until it fell. And once it had fallen, Pumpkinhead himself came out to introduce himself. Turns out that raven had put a curse on him many, many years ago and thanks us for setting him free. I see the option to ask him to tag along, and he agrees to lend us his blade. Also, you can ask him to recite the raven at any time. It takes so long, the idle animation will start playing. But anyways, just like that, we have an unexpected new companion for our journey, and are ready to move on to the next goal. I decided to give young Aventus of Winterhold a visit next, and honestly, with everything going on here, I very much so should have just turned around. Aventus lost his mother. However, Aventus seems to think we're someone that we're not, and even though we tell him the truth, he still asks us to unalive Grelod the Kind. Grelod is an evil foster mother for the aforementioned orphanage in Riften. She's a terrible person, and shows it as soon as we get there. I tried to sit next to her and have a chat, but she didn't want to seem to talk to me, so we went ahead with the job. Oh. Yeah, I did not know that those bloody skeleton guys turned into the Wither from Minecraft at all, so I got out of there as fast as possible. We take the news back to young Aventus, who gives us a family heirloom as a reward, but being the nightingale we already are, we know that we don't need a little old plate, and the real reward is helping someone in need. So we sneak the plate back into Aventus' bag and head on our way. We found another merchant this time with the name of Leatherface. Leatherface has the coolest tunic so far, and I really want to save up for it just to use it a bit later on. At this point, I have a pretty well furnished house, so I entertained the idea of buying some of the miscellaneous items that Leatherface sells to hopefully do some decorating. After placing some creepy oddities around the place, we head outside to have the courier chasing us down and giving us the iconic "We Know" letter. From here, all we have to do is hit the hay and remind ourselves that this is just base Skyrim and not even a mod, and still scary. I can't express how much I love this quest. As you wake up and see the mysterious woman sitting precariously on a bookshelf above you, and learn about the Dark Brotherhood, and how we overstepped our boundaries. Her name is Astrid, and according to her, we stole a kill from another member, so we have to pay. 3 random people are in front of us, and Astrid tells us we have to decide who is supposed to die. I ended up choosing the middle one, because she was rude to me. And then Astrid said it was actually a test to see if we would follow orders, so keep in mind the emotional damage has already begun. Astrid invites us to the Dark Brotherhood's hideout, and we promptly take the key to the abandoned shack. A dragon flies overhead a few times outside, and I thought we were going to get to break in Pumpkinhead, but the dragon turned out to be a coward and unfortunately never came down. We find the door to the base and in a very suave way say the password to enter. Inside we find Astrid, who welcomes us to the family and gives us our own set of Dark Brotherhood armor. Of course, we have to stay in character, so we'll be slapping that on right now, and I also decided on a new headpiece for this questline. Astrid suggests we meet our Brotherhood comrades and specifically speak to Nazir for smaller contracts while she arranges a bigger job. We stand mouth agape at the sound of a literal child explaining the actions she's done for the Brotherhood and finally speak to Nazir. He has 3 separate bounties for us to take on: Narfi, Betild, and lastly, Enodius Papyrus. Plan on getting in a lot of trouble in this questline because at a certain point during our mindless murder spree, I stopped trying to be sneaky and spent a lot of time in jail. After we mindlessly kill the targets, we talk to Nazir, who mentions Astrid is waiting for us. In the main hall, everyone is gathered up and a fan favorite Cicero is giving his awfully long spill, but more on him later. Astrid has a job for us finally and wants us to head to Markoth to speak to Moiri, who has apparently performed the same black sacrament we walked in on young Aventus performing. We head to Markarth to speak to her, and she asks us to assassinate a man named Elaine Dufont, and for an added reward, to take out Nilsine, Shatter Shield. I should mention that for the entirety of this questline, I went with the ominous, edgy, quiet guy route. So for every dialogue option that I'm able to do, we just remain silent. I'm not joking, literally every single one. We head to Nilsine first, and I honestly couldn't find a good opening for a stealth kill. Or more like I wasn't patient enough, and the horde of guards and I had a bit of an interesting outcome trying to get away. Moiri literally could have assassinated Elaine herself. It was so easy. Okay, we're running this way this time. Oh. Oh! My head! My head came off! No! We head back to Moiri to retrieve our reward and run far away from the parasocial relationship she is clearly forming already. We head back to Astrid, who is having a somewhat of a paranoia streak because of Cicero locking himself in the Night Mother's sanctuary and talking to someone. She wants us to eavesdrop on Cicero and the mysterious entities meeting, so naturally, we hid inside the coffin with the Night Mother. By the way, I left a fish sitting out for the memes the first time as an offering, and it literally broke the cutscene and I had to reload, which I found hilarious. Cicero rambles to the Night Mother about how he just can't find the listener, but turns out we're the listener as the Night Mother begins to talk to us as we're embracing her in the coffin. She tells us to journey to Vollenrud and speak with Amand Montier. We exit the coffin, and naturally, Cicero is pretty upset about us being in there, but after we explain ourselves, he starts doing his little happy dance. Ashford rushes in thinking she's going to save us, but we just end up telling her about our new calling. She doesn't want us to go quite yet and sends us back to Nazir to do some more legwork while she decides on what to do. I should mention, by the way, that it had been so long since I played this, I was basically doing this quest completely fresh again, which was nice, and I really wanted to wife up Astrid. We have an easy assassination for the first one, and the second one is a vampire who really likes to get up in your business. The targets go down easily, and we head back, ready to speak with Astrid once again. She's ready for us to speak with Amand, so after retrieving our reward for our past work, we decide to head that way. As we're leaving, Brotherhood member Arnbjorn makes it a point to tell us that she's Astrid's husband, almost as if he's clearly seen my infatuation with her. We leave him be for now, as the Brotherhood comes first. Astrid could only call us brother as we left, showing that we clearly got friend-zoned, even as the Dragonborn. We get to see the reskinned mammoths on the way as well, which actually look really sick. We meet with Amand in a very discreet location, and he gives us and the Brotherhood a very specific and long request with the purpose of ultimately assassinating the Emperor of Tamriel himself. He gives us a note that we actually read and totally get called out for breaking the seal on later when we return it to Astrid once again. This is the biggest job for the Brotherhood in 200 some odd years, and Astrid is ecstatic to take it on. We're sent to our old pal Delvin of the Thieves Guild to have the amulet Amand gave us appraised. Apparently, it's going to be worth a pretty penny. Astrid does call us out for breaking the seal on the letter once we get back, but we're her secret lover. She doesn't know she has, so she lets us off with a slap on the wrist. Our very first goal will be to head to Solitude and assassinate the Emperor's cousin during her wedding. I was trying to be cool and get a 6 sniper shot, but I ended up falling. We still hit the fadeaway shot regardless, and finished the very important first leg of the long quest. This action has started us down the path of assassinating the Emperor. Astrid sends us to Gabriella, who has been put in charge of the next contract. We see Arnbjorn training deliberately right in front of us, obviously trying to be intimidating, but we have Brotherhood business on our mind. Gabriella will be having us go after the Penitus Oculatus, also known as the Emperor's personal security. Currently, Commander Mara runs the security show, and we're going to carry out a plan designed to break him. Turns out, Commander Maro's son, Gaius Maro, is also a member of the Penitus Oculatus, and has been tasked with traveling the realm to observe the capabilities of the guards. We steal Gaius' schedule and follow him to Solitude, where we totally have a solid reputation at right now, and find him watching the soldiers training. We follow him into the barracks and assassinate him, then planting a fake note tying him to a conspiracy to murder the Emperor. Gabriella finds us at the entrance as we return, and we discover Cicero has been up to no good while we were gone. Visera the Argonian has been slashed by Cicero, and Cicero also attacked Astrid. She wants us to search Cicero's room for any hints as to where he might have went, so we take his journal, and that says he's planning to move to a sanctuary in Dawnstar. Astrid wants us to assassinate him, but also make sure her husband is alright. A unique road we must follow. Astrid tells us to take her horse, Shadowmere, who literally comes out of a pool of water. Of course, we give Shadowmere a good ride and the time of his life as we head to Dawnstar. We find Arnbjorn just outside the sanctuary in not so good shape. We talk to each other in a sincere way, a way that two people fighting over Astrid's love never could. We've grown. Through the Brotherhood, we can now be family. We tell our new friend to head home while we finish the job. The path to Cicero is full of him yapping and some vagrant descendants of the past. Once we reach him, Cicero begs us to spare him, but we didn't take this path for leniency. Of course, the jester was only jesting and could still fight. Ultimately, we succeed in fulfilling Astrid's request. With Cicero's chapter to a close, we can continue with the task at hand. Astrid sends us to Festus, who has been tasked with finding out who the gourmet's identity is. The gourmet is a celebrity chef of Tamriel who is slated to feed the Emperor when he arrives in Skyrim. Festus is a big fan of us being the silent type and tells us to speak with Anton Varan in Markoth, who seems to have a connection to the gourmet. We travel to see him and find him sleeping away. It wasn't very hard to not only get the name, but the race and location of the gourmet. Per Festus' request, we eliminate Varan after we're finished with him. You know, loose ends and all that. We head to meet the gourmet who has the premier room of the Nightgate Inn. We give him our signature silent treatment and take him out, looting his writ of passage to the Emperor's kitchen. Chilrend froze him solid, which I just found funny as we drag his body to a hidden location in order to keep his identity hidden just a bit longer. We return to Festus, who gives us a pat on the back, and speak to Astrid once again. It's time to deliver. Astrid gives us some Jarran root to mix into the Emperor's meal in order to poison him. We travel to Solitude and find Commander Morrow at the entrance. He doesn't treat us well until we give him our writ of passage stating who we are. We're sure to let him know not to upset the gourmet again and head inside to meet Gianna, our sous chef. She insists we wear a chef's hat and asks us what ingredients to put into the meal. Naturally, we remain silent until we need to add our secret ingredient. Gianna is fangirling really hard over the gourmet and has no idea the level of betrayal she is about to feel. We had to deliver the meal to the Emperor, and he perishes soon after taking a bite. Obviously, the room wasn't very happy about that, so per Astrid's instructions, we head to the roof where the coast was supposed to be clear. But Commander Morrow finds us with a load of guards. He tells us that that particular Emperor was just an insufferable double. Turns out, he's mad we killed his son, which, understandable, and someone in the Brotherhood gave us up in order for Morrow to leave the Brotherhood alone forever. But Morrow doesn't hold true to his word, and sends for the sanctuary to be burned to the ground. We defeat the guards in our path and head to the sanctuary to find it up in complete flames. We lose friend after friend after friend until finally finding and saving Nazir. We decide not to burn alive in our own sanctuary, and the Night Mother calls. We're told to embrace her, so we do, waking up to Nazir and Babette finding us. Before leaving, the Night Mother tells us we must speak with Astrid once again. Nazir thinks we have head trauma because we refuse to talk, but we immediately head to Astrid. Astrid is not looking good. The fire didn't do her well, and she spills everything. She apologizes for betraying us and everyone. My cats were also not taking this part as harshly as I was. Astrid admits to everything and tells us that she herself is a black sacrament she created. She is the reason we came here, and she wants us to assassinate her. She wants us to lead the family now. We take the blade of woe and stand over Astrid, realizing what this life of killing has led us. Nothing but pain and loss. Astrid stares up at us as we slice her down, and she thanks us with her last breath. This isn't over. We have to finish what we started. The Night Mother gives us the location of Amand and instructs us to tell Nazir where we're headed. Nazir stands with us and decides to take Babette and himself to the Dawnguard's sanctuary to start fresh. We head to Whiterun and confront Amand, who doesn't look so good, honestly, but he knows exactly where the Emperor is. We're heading to the ship, the Kataria. We swim over to the anchor and enter through there. The sailors try to stop us, but they don't stand a chance. Not with the fire of Astrid in our heart. We enter the Emperor's room, and he seems to have clearly been expecting us. He knows that he must fall, and it must be by our hands. But he has one last request of us from an old man. He asks us to assassinate the person who started all this. He doesn't even know that Amand is the one, but that doesn't even matter to him. The Emperor looks out into the breeze one last time as we complete our mission. The Emperor has been assassinated. We immediately take the news to Amand, who is naturally ecstatic. He tells us our reward is hidden in an urn where we first met. As we go to leave, the old man's final words echo in our head as we turn to assassinate Amand. We are the Brotherhood after all. We collect the massive 20,000 gold reward and return to the new sanctuary to speak to Nazir. We tell him the truth about the reward, of course, and he asks us to spend the money through Delvin the Fence to get the new sanctuary up and running. But that's a story for another time. As we exit, the Night Mother calls us once again, giving us a contract from a black sacrament somewhere in the land of Skyrim, starting the Dark Brotherhood Forever quest. This marks the end of the main quest line, as this quest never actually ends. With plenty of memories, good and bad in tow, it's time to move on to the next adventure. As per every major event, it's time for a fit change, and from now on, our primary method of attacking will be throwing leeches at people. Being the thieves that we are, we decide to pocket the money from the Brotherhood and head to the Bloody Tanker to purchase a mysterious pumpkin key for a large sum of gold. This key does something. I'm not sure yet while typing this, and I may never find out, honestly. I figured it was time to start seeking out something. the more spooky themed quest lines we've added through the mods and hoped purchasing the key would start us on something, but alas, we start our trek to the Frostflow Lighthouse instead. Oh, by the way, I turned on a setting where Jason Voorhees is supposed to stalk us by appearing directly behind us after waiting or fast traveling. Here we have to investigate a poltergeist where a young lady named Zarianna seems to have attached herself to a doll, causing extreme hauntings to happen. As we enter, we see the spirit of Zarianna running off and a plethora of cursed dolls coming towards us. Oh, and Jason broke already. Not even Pumpkinhead stood a chance here. I assumed that the solution would be somewhere in the lighthouse, and upon first glance, didn't see anything of use. So we literally went down into a freezing abyss with a large amount of Falmer and bugs, solving a set of murders that turned out to be a completely different set of murders from what we were trying to do, because when we got back to the main level, the cursed dolls were not impressed with the skull offering we had brought and trapped us on a table like when a rat runs across the room. Turns out, we can enter the room Zarianna's spirit is in and find the specific doll she had attached to, calming everything down. This doll actually teaches us a spell that allows us to summon a set of our own cursed dolls for 120 seconds, which we'll probably never use honestly, but it's cool to have. With our new experience with dolls under our belt, we decide to head to the Dead Man's Inn at Falkreath. Pretty much as soon as entering, a woman named Daphne runs up to us asking if we will investigate a tall figure that lures children into the woods and takes them away to a distant realm forever. She is really familiar with the process of finding this slender man for some reason, like almost suspiciously. She tells us we need to find the skulls of 7 of the children that were victims scattered in the forest outside of Falkreath, as well as a filled black soul gem. We head off into the woods and find the first set of victims. It feels a little weird to loot a child's dead body, honestly, but as we collect the second laying skull, we hear a voice tell us that it can see us, turning around to see an unbelievably tall and pale figure watching us from afar. We find a certainly tragic event very nearby that allows us our filled black soul gem to no fault of our own. There's a set of 3 skeletons to loot, and lastly another set of 2 to complete our scavenging. We head back to Falkreath and place the items in the forge, creating the key to unlock the Pale Man's domain. We head to the suspiciously portal-shaped rock figure at Weeping Mother's Moon Ruin, where we can place the key inside a screaming pedestal. The slender figure leaves a scroll for us, offering an invitation for us to come in and learn the true meaning of our own innocence. We enter the portal, leaving Pumpkinhead behind on this ride. We're faced with an orb that will allow us to summon an innocent. These are the spirits of the lost children living with the Pale Man, and they have a lot of talking points, mostly poetic monologues about a child's innocence. This one gives us a talisman for us to wear that will mask our heartbeat and allow us to enter the realm where the living aren't welcome. We open the door to the Garden of Shadows, which will be our first real area of the quest. Also, props to the mod developer on this because the music choice is fantastic. Holy, I'm gonna get demoned. This is demonetization right here. The Garden of Shadows is a pretty good sized area filled with plenty of innocents to talk to and a few souls of the parents who came searching for their children. Slender Man can be found here leading the spirits of young children in a circle around the garden. All of these entities are completely docile. The goal of this area is to find 4 pages scattered around that have been left by the Pale One and detail what he sees as the truth of life and how basically being alive sucks and he's really the good guy here. After collecting each page, some gray children will appear. These are hostile children that rise from the ash and something or another else, because I didn't read the rest of the note, but they're scary, okay? After collecting all the pages, we gain access to a seasoned adventurer soul who set out to defeat Slender Man on his own, who knows how long ago. The innocent nearby strongly suggested that his journal will have clues for the path forward, so we read the whole thing. Vigilant Ralder was just fighting for what he believed in when he came here, and the place basically drove him crazy enough that he took himself out with a sword. The hallucinations and pestering of the spirits became too much for him. The diary doesn't really have any keys to the path forward. I think that was just a ploy to get us to read the whole thing, and well, it worked. Next, we head to the Cliff of Repentance. There's a drawbridge here where we must fight Vigilant Ralder himself, or half of him at least. Once on the other side, the innocent tells us we have to complete the steps of innocence. These will be 4 trials we must accomplish to essentially purify ourselves from being a yucky adult. This room looks really cool, by the way. I jumped in the center of it. We collect another scroll, and the door forward is opened. For the first trial, we must reap the soul of an unfortunate child who refuses to follow the Pale Man, and the room is full of cursed dolls that will immediately one-shot us with their claws. This room ended up being all about parkour. We use the purple lanterns as stepping stools to eventually reach a ledge with a pullable chain that knocks the floor out from under everyone and creates a path for us to reach the next door. We're faced with split paths now, each symbolizing a mother or a father, and some of the crude actions they can commit to affect a young child. We find Daddy first, and honestly, this setting is terrifying at first. I still to this day don't know how you're supposed to do this other than sheer dumb luck. There are multiples upon multiples of chains in this room, and we have to pull them to open the gates forward. Unfortunately, this ended up being my least favorite part of the mod because Daddy hits way too hard, which is probably symbolism anyways, and well, once you activate him, he takes on a bit of a crude form that I can't even show you. Daddy? Oh my god, he's got a huge schlong. Why does he have a dick? Man, why does he have a dick? He's jizzing on me. And does some crude things. It's just kind of gross symbolism. We got stuck on our first death loop of the playthrough here, though. Twice. Ultimately, we pull the lever at the end and reveal the actual helpless father, finishing him off and harvesting his heart. The mother section isn't as bad. The monster from Amnesia chases you around a super long and winding maze until you find the sobbing mother to harvest her heart as well. With both hearts, we reach the center room where somebody finally turned the lights on and discover a torch on the ground that probably would have made both those rooms a whole lot easier if we had it. Outside, our final trial is a bit of a trust fall, and honestly, we don't even hesitate. After proving ourselves, we're told the only option is down, and this time there's no safety net. At the bottom, an innocent tells us that we're still too attached to life to complete the process of becoming an innocent, since we managed to keep our mortal form, and then tells us that our life doesn't have much longer anyways. We have to travel through several altars with a varying number of innocents at each post, singing some sort of innocent theme song. This whole bridge type area gives me a bit of an end of the world from Kingdom Hearts vibe, or maybe even something from Dark Souls 2. At the end, we finally face the Slender Man himself. We get the ability to question him, and he tells us where he came from. He was born from the thoughts and fears of parents losing their children to things like kidnappings. He's working hard for a Daedric prince, and this is the realm he's been given. He tells us to come to him if that's what we desire, and, well, yeah. Wow. Instant kill. He hits pretty hard. I did manage to kind of break his AI somehow here. I placed those souls from earlier all around him, thinking there was some kind of hidden mechanic, and as soon as he came off his pedestal, he just kind of got stuck. He just kind of floated above us while doing nothing else. He has regenerating health though, and my damage wasn't exactly high. I could continue to pick away at him up to a certain point until his health just refused to go down any further. I'm not entirely sure he's even meant to be defeated, and honestly, who are we to get in his way? I mean, I don't think he would come hunt us down for luring dragons into the woods after all. There's a hidden chain that lowers the barrier to the exit portal that we pull and then hop into said portal. Apparently, the portal closes immediately behind us, so I guess we won't be heading back in there. We can hold our head high as we have learned the true essence of innocence and oh fuck, there's another dragon. Yep, that's me. Meow the King. You're probably wondering how I got here, huh? Or maybe even how a Khajiit could have a seat like this in a country like Skyrim. And I bet you have no idea who these new schmucks walking around are. But that's okay. I'll tell you the story. The story of the day. I took on a wrong turn outside of Solitude and found myself in a world incomprehensible to ours. A bad fur day. There's a new building just outside of Solitude on the other side of the docks. I think it might benefit us to check out. Outside are some very tall castle guards, and they are not friendly. But fortunately, a nearby Khajiit comes to give Pumpkinhead and ourselves some aid as a trio. And as a trio, nothing can stand in our way. We talk to him and learn his name is Leo Belmont, which must be a foreign last name because we haven't heard it here in Skyrim. He mentions he and his friend were traveling when they decided to check out this very not normal looking castle. But they got separated and asked us to help him find him. So naturally, we say yes and ring the doorbell in order to enter the castle Dracula. Upon entering, we can already tell this place is absolutely beautiful and massive. We find Leo's friend Ichigato already slain by whatever the castle harbors. Leo simply asks us to help him find and defeat whatever killed his friend, and we oblige. Oh, and you all should know that Castlevania music is constantly playing while in here. We have to search the castle and decide to head up the right spiral staircase first, fighting all kinds of new enemies such as beefy skeleton archers and floating bats. At the top are skull-headed spell throwers, and with our 3 powers combined, they're easily defeated. This room seems to be an alchemy/enchanting themed room with all the works and some nice statues to boot. One particular cat-like statue turns to reveal a hidden switch that reveals a door to the gallery. After dealing with the enemies, we can admire all the beautiful artwork this home has to offer. The attached room leads to a full-fledged armory with all the storage space anyone could ever want. This clears us of this side, so we fight our way up the opposite wing and find a room dedicated to honing weaponry with tanning racks and smelters, grinders, and the likes. Here, we can find a statue covered in cobwebs in the corner that can be investigated to reveal another secret switch and another secret door, this time leading straight to the armory. We head back downstairs and head down the hallway, planting some plants just because we can, and then finding a locked door in the base floor of the left wing. On the right, we can enter a beautiful kitchen with its own cooking pots and decorations, and plenty of benches for dining. In the main hall, there are plenty of enemies to pick away at, including some titan skeletons that seem to be mostly just reskin giants that are a bit easier to deal with. There's some more spiral stairways to climb, and we decided to take the left hall first this time, leading us to a bedroom of sorts. Well, a special type of bedroom, to say the least. We have 8 or so full-size coffins for any sleeping needs. On the right side, we have another throne-like room with some torturing devices and, more importantly, a lantern we can interact with that reveals another secret switch and another secret door. Now, the climb starts, and it's a long way up to the top. We have to fight our way through several rooms full of enemies and several new enemies we haven't seen yet. There is a lot of rooms we have to fight through like it's a full-on gauntlet. I'm serious. In one of the final rooms, we have to take on death itself and then trundle up the side of the castle to reach the final door and the Count's quarters. Unfortunately, the Brotherhood door didn't mean much, and he still begins to summon his witch and attack us. The witch goes down easily, and the Count just couldn't keep up with the onslaught of all 3 of us. Just when it seemed the fight was over, the Count explodes into a vampiric monster that we must slay. Our health gets really close, but thanks to Leo and Pumpkinhead, we were able to succeed in defeating the Count. We talked to Leo after the battle is complete, and it seems he's in the market for a new traveling friend, so he will be riding with us and Pumpkinhead now. Since we cleared the castle, turns out we get to keep it. We head outside to greet the bodyguards that now work for us, and head inside to see the castle thriving with NPCs. We meet Scourge, the bony friend of the castle, and ask him to join us as a familiar of sorts, and to somewhat complete our gang of misfits we have going on here. Apparently, there's a crystal ball that will allow you to travel through the castle much more easily, and there's some caves down below. But that's for another time. When we get back, the entire mansion entirely overreacts to an enemy, and we finally have a seat on our castle throne. Taking in our own kind of conquer as king moment here. We take the gang and grab all of our things while leaving Lydia in the dust and placing some of our belongings around our new full-fledged armory. Our armor stacks are looking a little empty though, so I think it just might be time to change that. Before we head back to the main quest, it's time to get that shiny set of Daedric armor, and it's going to take a lot of grinding. Starting off, we decide to start gathering materials for the armor itself and head to the Gloombound Mine. In the Gloombound Mine is a plethora of ebony ore veins, which we'll ultimately need to craft the armor. Once they're used up, you can wait about an in-game week in order to revitalize them. For the Daedra hearts, we decide to use the Shrine of Mehrunes Dagon as our hub. To access the 4 Daedra here, though, we need to complete the piece-by-piece quest. And these Daedra are intended to respawn after waiting, but I swear even after an entire in-game month, they just would not come back. So we decide for an alternative. Of course, there's always the free Daedra heart in Whiterun that does respawn, but we can also visit an old friend if we head to the College of Winterhold. Of course, we get strong-armed into casting a simple light spell to even be able to enter, but once inside, we can speak to Inthyr from the Thieves Guild questline. Inthyr sells 2 Daedra hearts for a high price, and after waiting 48 in-game hours, they respawn, making for quick and easy farming. With way too many resources collected, we can start the actual grind of raising our smithing to 90. I searched to see if there was any hot new tech when it came to doing this fast, and came across a partner duping glitch that involved dropping the item and having the partner pick it up, then making them wait while you leave and reload the area, but I must have done something wrong, or it was patched on the version I was playing, so I decided to just go back to Old Faithful. Back in the day, and apparently still now, you can use this barrel in Whiterun as a stepping stone to jump onto the nearby ledge and scoot out of bounds. This puts us outside of Whiterun, even though Whiterun is still loaded, and we can skirt around until we get near the Skyforge run by Yorland Greymane. There's a piece of mountain here that actually lacks collision, and we can walk right through it to get under the Skyforge, where a chest floats above. This chest is connected to Yorland's supplies as a vendor, and allows us to take whatever we want. Specifically the gold he holds and as much ore as we can take, with a focus on iron ore and ingots and leather strips. Using some invisible footing, we can look up at old Yorland as he is using the grinder and jump in order to speak with him. We need to wait around 48 in-game hours in between looting the chest, and then as soon as we speak with Yorland, we know we can loot the chest again if his gold has rejuvenated. Once we reach our load capacity, or close to it, we can navigate the down under and come out and back in bounds through the stairs and head to the forge just at the front gate of Whiterun. We can run both vendors dry here every time as well, since gold won't really be an issue as long as we continue to loot the hovering chests. Starting out, we use these materials to simply smith iron daggers, and at the lower levels that raises our smithing quite nicely. After time though, we need to add some extras. I should note there's also a hidden chest in Dawnstar that if I remember correctly is linked to the traveling Khajiit merchant. We occasionally use this to grab some filled greater soul gems for a surprise later on, and any gemstones so that we can create silver jewelry. Oh, by the way, somewhere along the lines we became Darklink with a wizard hat. Eventually, as our smithing rises, we continue to craft more and more items such as orc items and glass items. Anything and everything we can basically to get the gauge to go up faster and then finish each round off with more iron daggers. Don't let it fool you. This took like 4 hours, if not more, of just going back and forth. Granted, I'm sure it's not the best way, but it kept me actively engaged on a Sunday, so whatever. After obtaining the coveted 90 smithing, we gather our materials and take them to the Hell Forge in Dracula's castle because it seemed the most fitting. We craft ourselves a full set of Daedric armor, a Daedric sword, and a Daedric bow. Not only can we craft them, but we can upgrade them at the grindstone and workbench to get legendary items and armor. On this adventure, we also spotted something very interesting in the forge selection, and you guessed it. We can make Zangetsu from bleach. We at some point found a Soul Reaper badge item, and we can use it to craft a huge blade. Of course, we need some other items, including steel ingots, more ebony ingots, and those greater soul gems I mentioned earlier. Once we craft it, we can continue to upgrade it through the forge until it becomes a legendary two-handed weapon. Oh, and of course we made Chillrend legendary as well. Now that we're a full-on Daedric armor-wearing Soul Reaper, we're ready to grab our companions and most likely literally steamroll the remainder of the game. Now that we're appropriately fitted with the clothing of the world's equivalent to devils, it's time to visit the recluse Esbern. Esbern is in hiding, and if you remember way back when, Delphine tasked us to come find him to help us along our main quest with the Blades faction. Esbern is tucked deep in the Ratways, and doesn't want to let us in at first until discovering we're the Dragonborn. After taking a few minutes to unlock his Jeff Dahmer-style door, he allows us in and tells us to make ourselves at home. Ultimately, he agrees to help us and tells us of Alduin's Wall, but first we'll need to escort him back to Riverwood to reunite him with Delphine. The Thalmor try to stop us on the way out, but that doesn't work out well for them, and the two long-lost friends are reunited in just a moment. We all head to the safety of the tavern basement and discuss our next move. We decided to split up and meet up at the place known as Sky Haven Temple, where the mythical Alduin's Wall is located. Once we find the wall, Esbern nerds out a bit, but from what we can gather, the ancient Nords used some word of power to ground Alduin and defeat him for some time. This will prompt us to revisit the Greybeards on High Hrothgar to ask the elders what they know of this ancient shout. Arngir is not happy with our decision to work with the Blades, and at first refuses to help us, as if we're some child who can't figure out their own path. Something from afar scolds him though, and tells him to allow us to see Parthernax, the ultimate leader of the Greybeards. The group takes us outside and we tower above them in the flames until Arngir teaches us the words and grants us the knowledge of the Clear Skies shout. We'll have to use this multiple times along the way to the highest point of the mountain to avoid taking damage from the harsh conditions. At the top, we meet him, the leader of the Greybeards, who just so happens to be a dragon. Parthernax seems to be on the side of the good guys, but wants us to prove ourselves. He gives us the awesome power to breathe fire, and asks us to use this power against him, making him a little excited to finally hear someone with the same power of voice as him. Turns out, he doesn't know the Dragonrend shout either that we need, but mentions the ancient Nords of the past did more than just shout at Alduin all those years ago. Parthernax tells us of the Elder Scrolls and how they transcend even thought itself. Seriously, they're kind of confusing pieces of paper. We need an Elder Scroll to continue, and the College of Winterhold seems the best place to look. We link up with Urag, the orc, at the college, and he gives us some lowdown on the scrolls. Like usual, he doesn't really want to work with us until he finds out we're the Dragonborn. But once he does, he fetches what little amount of literature they have on the Elder Scrolls. We pretend to be able to read in front of Urag and then ask him about one of the books, which is apparently legitimately illegible, and leads us on a chase after Septimus Cygnus. Apparently, Septimus found a huge Dwemer cube and disappeared somewhere off into the far north. We find his hideout and give him a chat, and it doesn't take long to realize that Septimus isn't quite all there. He has a Dwemer lexicon and ball thing that we need to take with us to achieve the Elder Scroll. This place is a fond memory to me because you can get one of the Daedric artifacts here, and you used to be able to cheese it to get to level 100 in a heartbeat. Good times. Septimus sends us to Alftand, and long story short, we beat up a bunch of robots in Falmer until we reach Blackreach, deep in the depths. This place is beautiful, but we don't have long to gander before we get attacked again, and proceed to make our way across the long, underground cavern to find the Tower of Mzark. Here is a puzzle in which we can transcribe on the lexicon the contents of the Elder Scroll, and also claim it for ourselves. Once again, I still don't know the science behind this puzzle to this day. I just press buttons until it works. With the Elder Scroll in hand, we need to head back to the Time Wound where Paarthurnax is to read it. Oh yeah, there's a Time Wound here because the ancient Norse tried to use the Elder Scroll to trap Alduin in time space or whatever, and we get to watch it all play out. Coincidentally, also learning the Dragonrend shout and coming to our senses with the Eater of Worlds staring us right in the face. It's time to battle, and with the Dragonrend shout and Paarthurnax at our side, not even the crashing rocks could stop us from taking Alduin's life points to 0. But it was all for naught, as Alduin cannot be defeated in this realm, not by anyone, not even the Dragonborn. Alduin flees, and Paarthurnax tells us of the Great Balcony in Dragon's Reach designed to capture dragons. We need to capture one so we can find out where Alduin has ran off to. The next bit of the quest involves us traveling around a lot. First, to get Jarl Bolgrif of Whiterun to allow us to use his dragon capturer. He obviously doesn't want to be attacked during such a time of weakness. So we decide to consult the Greybeards and ask them to use their mutual respect from the Imperials and Stormcloaks to host a peace meeting for us. They ultimately decide to oblige, so we head to General Tullius of the Imperials to convince him to attend, and then directly to Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak of the Stormcloaks to convince him of the same. Everyone agrees to attend, and even the Blades are allowed a seat. We take our seat at the head of the council, and the politics begin. They talk all kinds of stuff, and we just try to keep either side happy until they can come to an agreement. After everyone is leaving, Esbern mentions he's discovered the truth behind the leader of the Greybeards, and the Blades will be refusing to help us anymore unless we kill Paarthurnax. Apparently, before he turned rogue, he committed quite a few atrocities alongside Alduin, but for this playthrough, we've decided we just won't need the Blades' help anymore. At the Great Balcony, we use our voice to tempt the dragon Odahviing to a fight and use Dragonrend to put it on the land. After putting up a fight, we coerce it into a trap, and it's ours to interrogate. It seems the allegiance to Alduin is beginning to fail, and Odahviing tells us of where he's at, and also strikes a deal with us to release him. We let him free, and in exchange, he's going to fly us to Skuldafn in order to find the door to Sovngarde. Skuldafn is a traditional dungeon with just a few more dragons and a lot of Draugr until we make it to the end. A dragon priest waits for us, but thanks to our time spent grinding our equipment, the dragon priest doesn't even stand a chance, and we can collect the dragon staff to reopen the portal to Sovngarde. As we travel through the thick fog, we get jump scared by a Stormcloak soldier and then immediately jump scared again by Alduin himself. We need to cross the fog to find the entrance to the Hall of Valor. Soon is the protector of the gate, and he hits like a dump truck with no mercy, but eventually allows us in. Inside, a Thor look-alike approaches us and leads us to the ancient Nord warriors that started all this. We link up and head back outside to take to the fight, using the power of our voice to clear the fog Alduin created and force him to face us. Alduin is no big fan of Dragonrend, so we use it often to keep him grounded and slash away until finally the beast falls and then explodes in front of us, saving all of Skyrim from this particular end times. The dead praise us as we leave, and we wake up at the peak of the highest mountain, surrounded by dragons. One by one, dragon after dragon, they all take off and fly in a circle around us until Paarthurnax speaks. Even he's not happy about his brother's death, but he knows it had to be done, and how far he had flown from the right path misled by his own overwhelming power. Paarthurnax plans to take lead of the dragons as the next eldest in line and bids us farewell. Just before we're about to leave, Odahviing lands before us and gives us his acknowledgement of our voice, and offers us his aid whenever we ask, then flies off, leaving us standing alone at the highest peak, our goals completed. We head back to our castle, standing in front of the many personas we've built over all this time, all the people we've became. the people we've stole from, the people we've killed, and the people we've saved. While the world of Skyrim is vast, the goals we set out for ourselves have been accomplished, and we were able to put a bit of a spooky twist on it. I think it's humorous the way Pumpkinhead stares at us off from the side. He's been loyal to us for a long time. I've seen us do all kinds of evil and good things. Who knows what's going through that pumpkin's mind? But I know one thing, that's a partner that's stuck by us. Sure, there's plenty more out there to discover, but this meow feels just like Conquer, and thinks it's about time to just have a bottle of beer.